Among the group that greeted the Anunnaki in '54 at Woolrock, which is now Edwards Air Force Base, there was an archbishop from Los Angeles by the name of Mike McIntyre. McIntyre had been invited to be present when they landed to meet them, because I thought, well, somebody ought to be representing the church here, you know. And they brought old McIntyre over from LA to Muroc. And they were there for 2 days. And these guys scared the shit out of everybody with their technology. And they talked openly. The two hovered over the runway for 2 days. Just never landed. I mean, no legs or nothing. They just hovered over the damn runway. It's all on film. But the other guys come out, landed right in front of the hangar, and got out and went over and, you know, shook hands or whatever. I don't know what the hell they did. McIntyre was present because I had invited him. Well, after it was all over with, after the second day, and you guys get back in their ship and off they go, our intelligence people got a hold of McIntyre and says, "Now, Archbishop, you got to understand something. You can't talk about anything you've seen." "Oh, I understand. Archbishop, this is beyond top secret. You can't say a word about what we have just experienced here."
Una de las figuras más espectaculares de los campos de trigo no apareció en Inglaterra este año, apareció en Italia. Una imagen de un círculo en Poirino, en código binario, con un mensaje muy especial. Aquí le presento la información con Fernando Correa.
Durante el 2011, en Italia, se han reportado 12 formaciones del mismo tipo de las que aparecen en los cultivos de Inglaterra. Entre ellas destaca una figura majestuosa de perfección indudable que apareció en la región de Poirino el día 20 de junio del 2011. Obsérvela con detenimiento. Es un diseño geométrico de una estrella con 7 puntas que contiene un mensaje en código binario. Por medio del código ASCII, utilizado en el lenguaje binario de las computadoras, el mensaje de esta formación fue descifrado. Se encontró que se trata del nombre del dios de la sabiduría de los sumerios, acadios y babilonios, el dios creador y señor de la tierra que llamaron Enki. Esta formación se relaciona directamente con la figura que apareció el año anterior en la misma región de Italia, en Poirino, donde el 13 de junio del 2010 se reportó la aparición de esta figura, también con forma de estrella de 7 puntas y también con un mensaje en código ASCII, que fue descifrado y en este caso contiene la fórmula más famosa del científico Albert Einstein. E igual a mc², es decir, la energía es igual a la masa por la velocidad de la luz al cuadrado. Ahora observe con toda atención esta comparación, y en las dos figuras aparecen mensajes codificados usando un lenguaje universal del código binario que emplea solo 2 números, el 0 y el 1. Hay que considerar que en el código ASCII, cuyas siglas en inglés significan Código Estadounidense Estándar para el Intercambio de Información, existen 95 caracteres numerados que son descritos con 8 bits de información. Es decir que, por ejemplo, los 8 bits 01, 00, 01, 01 equivalen a la letra E. Ahora veamos cómo se descifró el mensaje de la formación de Poirino del 20 de junio del 2011. Entre los picos de las estrellas aparecen filas de círculos llenos y vacíos. Un círculo lleno significa el número 0 y un círculo vacío significa el número 1. Iniciando por la fila de la extrema derecha encontramos la letra E. Luego la siguiente fila equivale a la letra A. Después se repite el patrón y equivale nuevamente a la letra E. Le sigue la letra N. Luego la letra K. Después la letra I. Y al final aparece un espacio. Así es como se puede leer en esta formación el nombre del dios creador Enki, que de acuerdo a la leyenda épica de los acadios, la crónica de Atrahasis, Enki es el creador de la humanidad, quien utilizó un homínido ya existente en la tierra y lo manipuló para hacerlo un nuevo hombre capaz de entender el deseo de los dioses. Ahora observe con atención cómo se descifró el mensaje de la formación de Poirino del 13 de junio del 2010. En este caso, adentro de cada una de las 7 puntas existen círculos que contienen puntos distribuidos de tal forma que en el código decimal ASCII equivalen a una letra o carácter. Se puede leer a la izquierda el inicio del mensaje con la letra E, luego el signo igual, después la letra M, le sigue la letra C, luego el símbolo que equivale a elevar a la potencia y al final el número 2 que significaría al cuadrado. Así se obtiene la ecuación más famosa de Albert Einstein. Se trata de 2 formaciones extraordinarias que nos hablan de mensajes muy importantes por la trascendencia y significado de la ecuación de Einstein y por el significado a investigar del creador de la humanidad llamado Enki. Mensajes escritos con un lenguaje universal conocido como el código binario, el cual bien podría ser utilizado para comunicarse con otras inteligencias.
So, what's happening is the Mound Builders, which I'm sure you've heard of Serpent Mound. Newark, Ohio is another very famous earth mound site. Eastlake Ohio is ground base, and the site that's there now, it's been mowed down in the past, and there's a school that sits on that land now. But this site had walls that were 660 feet long and 20 feet around a huge pyramid. And look into Cahokia too, because there's a pyramid made out of dirt there that it could fill up, I think it was 12 of the pyramids in Egypt. And that's in St. Louis, and that's a large mound complex. But Eastlake, Ohio is going to be put on the map here soon, and I can tell you what's happening in the very near future is the Cleveland Natural History Museum is doing a multi-million-dollar renovation because who the Mound Builders are is truly going to be revealed to this planet through the Native American Indians, because they know, because the Mound Builders have intertwined now into the Iroquois, which I'm Iroquois, and it explains the bloodline as well. But what I can tell you is this is also the revealing to the world, which I said I'm not religious, but it's important to religious people, is the lost tribes of Israel. What you'll find out is the Mound Builder DNA, using new DNA testing, they label lineages of DNA going back in time, haplogroups. And they knew of haplogroup, they just name them A, B, C, and D. And those were all the Native American Indian bloodlines that came in, and they could trace them back to where they came from. No problem, because they all came through an Asian migration route, how we all believe everything happened. But in 1998, there was a brand new haplogroup found. That's not that long ago. And it was haplogroup X2A. And haplogroup X2A, yeah, Google that and you'll see. Matter of fact, write down Casey DNA too, and you'll see Edgar Casey knew all this and prophesied it already, because he did so much work on the Atlanteans. People don't know, he said exactly what happened to the Atlanteans. They became the Mound Builders who intertwined into the Iroquois tribe of Indians, and they're still here today. I am that. And how it's provable is haplogroup X2A, which was only discovered in 1998, only exists in 3 places on this planet. The skeletal remains that have been removed out of these mounds, usually giants, by the way, 8 to 16 feet tall, are haplogroup X2A. But 3% of the Native American Indians still to this day have haplogroup X2A. Hasn't left this planet. But this is an interesting talking point, because even using DNA, a few generations ago, we were giants. Now we're not. So genetic work is still being done. I think it's why a lot of abductions, to reduce the stature of the Nephilim so we could fit in and do what we're intended to do. But the only other place that haplogroup X2A is on this planet is going back in time. If you find the largest concentration of that DNA type, it tells you where the biggest congregation of it was in the past. It's the hills of Galilee, Jerusalem. So this is one of the lost tribes of Israel. And it is the bloodline, the Holy Grail that the Templars brought into America long ago. And so what happened was, then it clicked to me. I was like, holy crap. The oldest road in our area that comes up, it goes up all the way through the continent, but in our area, it turns into the name Lost Nation Road. I'm like, duh, you know? So you take Lost Nation until it dead ends at Lake Erie. And when you take a left onto, it's called Lakeshore Boulevard, and you can look all this up on Google Earth too, you know? Just type in Lost Nation Road, Ohio. Take it up to the lake. When you go to the left, you're gonna come across Eastlake Middle School. That's the site of the first home of the Mound Builders, where this mound complex was. But if you turn right, the first roads you come to are Iroquois, Seneca, which is another, I'm Seneca, is a tribe of the Iroquois. Mohawk is another Iroquois. It's what happened to the Lost Tribe, or the Lost Nation. Over here is the first site, and over here is a road map, literally, of where they went. And it's Iroquois, Seneca, Mohawk, Cherokee. People don't know the Cherokee are blood family of the Iroquois. They just went to a different part and became known as the Cherokee. Then the next road you'll come to is Tioga. So I'm like, what the hell's Tioga? I Googled it. Here it means peaceful valley in Iroquois language. So I'm working with the Eastlake Historical Society right now to bring the tribal elders to Eastlake, Ohio this summer to do an event, and it'll be a big outdoor event. So please look me up on Facebook, keep in contact, because all the elders are going to be coming here to release this. And what's really cool about this is, up until this point, they've been known as the Hopewell or the Adena Indian cultures. They're being renamed forevermore accurately. And because Hopewell was the name of the farmer who owned the land that the mounds were on. Nothing to do. But thank you so much for stopping in. And tomorrow, if you're here tomorrow, I'm going to be getting into a little bit more of it. So I think, I don't even know what time it is. Are we? Cool.
Most Americans have no idea that ancient cities with advanced architectures once dotted the ancient North American landscape.
Very, very few of us were conscious of the immensity of a place like Monk's Mound at Cahokia, opposite St. Louis, which is bigger in its footprint than the Great Pyramid at Giza. We didn't know that.
The knowledge embedded in these earthworks and encoded in their structure is anything but primitive. It's remarkable.
What I've learned now is just how amazing they were in terms of their knowledge of the solar system and of mathematics.
Artifacts of iron were found, artifacts of hardened copper, stone tablets with writing. Regular farmers just plowing their fields would really turn up literally bushel baskets of arrowheads, spear points, etc. And these things were commonplace. Some people, such as Caleb Atwater and Squire and Davis, they believe the artifacts that they were finding around these mounds and cities and earthen structures, that this was representative of an advanced civilization.
The science of archaeology was really in its infancy at that time. There were only a few people using what we would consider to be even remotely modern methods.
According to the scholarly journal of the Ohio Historical Society, quote, "No subject received more attention or stirred more controversy among archaeologists in the 19th century than the authenticity and presumed meaning of the engraved stone tablets that were periodically recovered from the mounds."
And there are various things fueling these. There were religious, political, and social agendas.
Doctrine of manifest destiny allowed the United States government to classify the Native Americans as savages by their terminology. And by calling them savages, that would allow them to push them aside and basically claim their lands as America expanded in a westward direction.
Politically, it would have been impossible for them to have taken lands away from Indians, from any indigenous peoples, if they viewed them as having rights even close to what they had as American citizens.
Manifest destiny The idea that American First Nations had never achieved anything worth preserving has resulted in the wanton destruction of thousands and thousands of earth constructions, mounds, embankments, figures, and settlements.
Science did tell them that there were certain races that were superior and some that were inferior.
We would say that's bad science, where you want to discount information because it kind of doesn't fit what you think you see. And what you see is what people saw at the time were these savages who were in this pitiful state.
So we have lost incalculable amount of archaeological data because of no appreciation of their value for historical purposes.
I want to show you some things that I don't think you even knew existed. It goes against everything Manifest Destiny teaches about Native Americans. And I want you to know this part of our history because people erased it, and we'll get to that later on in the program. Erased it intentionally. That's an important part of it. America's history didn't begin with Christopher Columbus came over. There were ancient cities with advanced architectures all across North America. Did you know that? Hundreds of years before Columbus came. We always think, oh, the Indians, they didn't scar the land. No, not true. These were cities as large as any in the world at the time. London or Rome, they were metropolises. Archaeologists say they have found evidence of 200,000 actual cities of mound-like structures all across North America that were here long before Columbus. But we don't know anything about them. Why? Why? Especially when you hear what you're about to hear. I want to show you 3 incredible examples of these Indian mounds that were discovered. But before I show you this, I want to ask yourself, I want you to ask these questions. Was Jackson right? Andrew Jackson, Manifest Destiny, the beginning of that. Was he right that the Native Americans were savages? Or was Jefferson right that there was something going on here that we don't even understand? Maybe they were descendants of Egyptians or Jews, or maybe they were from Asia. Where were these people from? But they weren't savages. I want you to take a look at this. This is going to blow your mind. See this here? First, let me show you the Great Pyramid of Giza. You've seen this, one side of the Great Pyramid of Giza. If you measure it, it is from the bottom to the apex 606 feet. That's important. That's an ancient unit of measurement. It's referred to as the stade. Now I want to show you this. These are the Newark earthworks. They're here in Ohio. Yes, Ohio. The earthworks are made, they're structures that are made now of earth that has been built up from the ground in a perfect circle. Here it is, a perfect circle and a perfect octagon. But they were built by the ancient Hopewell civilization. They date back from 300 BC to 400 AD. So let's look at these structures here. Bring this up. I want to show you something. If you square the inside of the octagon, here's a square and here's a square. If you square it, this is what surveyors do when they're measuring. They square the circle, and then they divide that area into 4 equal parts, or cubes, and then you find that each cube is made up of 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet. 606. It's made up of stades, exactly the same. Now, if that's not interesting enough, look at the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza. If you take the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the slope is 51.8 degrees. Let's go back to the earthworks. If you measure the line that goes straight through the center of the structure, right here, and then you go true north, it's 51.8 degrees. That angle is exactly the same angle as the pyramids of Giza. It is the same math, the same calculations as ancient Egyptians. Let me show you one more connection. In 1860, David Wyrick, he's a guy who surveyed the Newark earthworks. He was digging into a mound near those earthworks, and he found a wooden coffin made of oak. They opened up the coffin and found a skeleton of a man holding a little box that was about 8.10 inches in size. The box had been cemented shut here. This, by the way, is sitting in Ohio. Well, he opened up the box and he found a little man inside, a little black stone. They took it to scholars and they looked at it. The man seems to be carrying something, and there's writing here at first they couldn't recognize. The writing is, they thought in 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the 10 Commandments. Now, this is another piece. Block Hebrew, they said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismiss the findings. They found it in Israel, and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found that they couldn't argue. This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee, since it came from Cherokee country. They didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew. So what's going on here? What is that about? Where is that history? I'll show you in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to show you some more things that the Smithsonian, science, government, commerce colluded to erase. By the way, I want to thank the directors of the documentary Lost Civilizations of North America for bringing these stories to my attention. I was blown away. To find more, visit the website lostcivilizationdvd.com. Here's the thing we should be asking ourselves. I don't know the story of these. Do you know that? Did you know that? Do you live in Ohio and did you know that? Why not? Were the American Indians wronged? Yes. Yes. And that's what we focus on in America. Is we were bad to the American Indians. Forget about it. It's in the past. The question should be the ones that the founders asked. Who are they? What knowledge do they have? Can you imagine the difference we would have now if we would put our differences aside and put our past in the past and concentrate on today and say, let's learn from each other. What do you have? What is that? What is that? When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Peter Lilback, who is, I've told you before, is one of my favorite authors. He's going to talk to me a little bit about the founders here. And I'm also going to show you some documents that show how that history has been erased. Next. This is the Smithsonian Annual Report, 1882, 1883. This is John Wesley Howell. This is an original copy. John Wesley Howell in 1789. Again, this is Powell. This is the director of the Bureau of Ethnology at the Smithsonian Institute. He said this: artifacts found prior to Christopher Columbus's arrival would be considered illegitimate by the Smithsonian. Only the savage Indian culture would be observed, and this created the artificial barrier to science. Only the savage. Science was colluding with government because of commerce, and religion was involved. Now, why do I tell you all this stuff? Not because I'm an Indian expert or anything else. You got to do your own homework. I just found out about this stuff. I'm amazed by it. I don't know what the answer is on this. The reason why I bring it up is the stock is not bad. The soup went bad, but the stock is not. Peter Lilback, Dr. Peter Lilback. How are you, sir?
Good to see you.
This is a book that needs to be owned by every American. Every single American should have this book in their home. It's called Sacred Fire. These are the words of George Washington, and it takes history absolutely apart. Not on somebody's opinion, but on their own words, on his words. Peter, I want to go to you and talk to you a little bit about, again, the stock. George Washington had a good relationship. Our founders had a good relationship with the Native Americans, right?
There's no question about that. When they came to America, they realized they could not survive without a close relationship with the Indian people. The greatest story, for example, is the Pilgrims who were blown off course. 800 miles out of their destination in Virginia, they're in Massachusetts. They land on ground, and they're in the middle of nowhere, no government. They make the Mayflower Compact, so they have government when they land. And there's no Native Americans there because a plague had gone through, but one person shows up. He happens to be a Native American that knew English. He had actually been taken captive to England. He'd learned English. He'd gotten his freedom. He came back, his people were gone. The white settlers are there all of a sudden, and he meets them and he says, "Welcome." He speaks English. They couldn't believe it. The providence of that moment is extraordinary. They needed help, and there was a person there to help them, and he was a Native American.
Right.
And that creates Massachusetts.
All right, do I have time for one more story real quick? No? Okay, hang on, because I want to come back and talk about, William Penn. Because William Penn said something when he was working with the Indians that is critical to understand the truth, I think, about America. And we'll do that next. The history that has been erased in our nation, and in particular with the Native Americans, happened because it didn't fit the story they created, Manifest Destiny. It only works when Indians were savages, and they had to have savages for commerce and government to expand. The ancient artifacts prove otherwise. Why aren't we looking into those? Peter Lilback is the president of Providence Forum and the author of George Washington's Sacred Fire. Okay, Peter. I think a great place for Americans to understand the truth about Americans and Native Americans and African Americans, all of it. It comes from William Penn. Tell the story.
Great story. Philadelphia, the great founding city of the United States. That's where government began. It was founded by William Penn. He wanted a city without walls. And he determined that he would do it by making a constant commitment to justice and ethics with the Native Americans. There never was an Indian war with William Penn. And there's a wonderful treaty that still exists that describes the commitment they made. And it says this: there are good people and bad people among all people. There are good and bad Indians. There are good and bad Christians. That's what he called them in Philadelphia. And he said, we must come together so that we will address these problems that will come with respect and by communication, affirming the good.
That's where we need to be. There are good among us and bad among us. There are good Americans, bad Americans. There's good parts of America. There are bad parts of America in the American story. We've got to come together as the good people, stand together and guard against the bad so we can live in a country without walls. Peter, thank you very much. Back in a minute. To expand our own understanding of America, good, bad, and ugly, with the Civil Rights Movement tomorrow and Friday. And then we'll see you down at the mall in Washington, D.C. on 8/28. Don't miss it. History in the making. From New York, good night, America.
Perhaps DNA science can settle once and for all the biological question of who, for example, the Hopewell Mound Builders were.
We can use DNA to help us reconstruct the past and the history of different populations, because your DNA is passed down from your parents from generation to generation. There are certain types of DNA in particular that are very useful for reconstructing population prehistory. Your mitochondrial DNA is DNA that every person has, and you inherit it from your mother. Your mother passes it on to her children. Men don't pass it on to their children. And this type of DNA therefore gives us a measure of matrilineal relatedness. I collected DNA from and analyzed DNA from a couple of different Hopewell cemetery populations. When we looked at DNA from these two different Hopewell populations, from Illinois and Ohio, we found that there were 5 primary mitochondrial DNA lineages present. These lineages have become designated by letter names in the scientific world, and the ones that we see in Native American populations, both living today and in these Hopewell cemeteries, were the mitochondrial lineages A, B, C, D, and X. And these 5 lineages are ones that are common today in Native Americans, and they were the ones that were present in these ancient Hopewell communities. When we look at the distribution of haplogroup X in the Americas, we see that it's present in about 3% of all Native Americans, but it's more common in some populations. In particular, peoples who live in the upper Great Plains exhibit much higher frequencies of haplogroup X, sometimes up to 25 or 30 or even 50% in some samples that have been studied.
DNA science apparently settles the biological questions of who these ancient, advanced Hopewell mound builders were. But where else is this DNA found, and where did it originate?
The form of haplogroup X that's present in the Americas is known as haplogroup X2A, and this specific type is defined by a number of additional mutations that Native Americans who belong to haplogroup X share.
There's a lot about DNA evidence that is a controversy.
Haplogroup X is really a fascinating story because the X-files of Native American genetics, because it burst on the scene in 1998. Scientists didn't want to believe it, but they found a new haplogroup in addition to A, B, C, D among the Indians of the Great Lakes in particular. And that was haplogroup X. And so immediately the scientists who have a kind of idée fixe, in my opinion, set about trying to find haplogroup X in Mongolia and Siberia, because of course all American Indians, all upstanding American Indians came across the Bering Land Bridge chasing woolly mammoths, right? So they weren't able to find haplogroup X in Siberia. Haplogroup X was a Eurasian type. So then they started talking about, oh, well, maybe they got here by jumping across the ice in a circumpolar fashion. Okay. Well, it kind of rested there for a while. Is it true that all Native Americans came from 10 families that stumbled across the Bering Strait chasing woolly mammoths before the last ice age? I don't think mine did.
I'm haplogroup X, and on further investigation, I believe I am haplogroup X2A, which is found in the Ojibwe populations, and Sioux, and Navajo, and a couple of more that I can't even pronounce, even though I'm from this continent in North America. And there are 5 different haplogroups found in North America: A, B, C, D, and X. Yes, haplogroup X. What if haplogroup X did cross over the Atlantic and not through the Bering Strait as otherwise hypothesized? The reason that's hypothesized by some scientists in this world is because there are very few or no traces of an X haplogroup anywhere along the Asian migration route, which would cover from the Fertile Crescent, going through those mountains, I don't know all the countries, through India, through China, through like Vietnam, Asia, all those countries, Japan, over the sea, well actually up through Siberia, and through the Yukon, well I would call it the Yukon today because I'm Canadian, and down through North America. But the X haplogroup has been linked to the Clovis Point arrowheads. Clovis Point arrowheads is a certain type of an arrowhead that was designed and used by hunters about 17,000 years ago in and around the areas known as today, what we know as France, Germany, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, you know, like those areas. And they came here. And they continue to survive, yes, perhaps for 5,000 more years before other peoples, the A, B, C's, D's, came over from the Bering Strait with their male counterparts. And there was lesser male counterparts that survived than females, but you'll find that throughout the world, and darn good reason for it. Anyways, we'll look into that here. And so, yeah, Swan X. Yes, I think we came over the Atlantic.
You know, it also shows that not just high math, but these sites are lined up primarily with the lunar calendar. They had high math, they understood geometry, and because of the lunar calendar, they also understood the heavens, astronomy.
What I've learned now is just how amazing they were in terms of their knowledge of the solar system and of mathematics.
And the lunar calendar comes from the Mediterranean, and then they had the unit of measurement was 606, which they call the stade. One side of the Great Pyramid from the base to the tip of the apex is 606 feet. If you square inside the octagon, which the surveyors like to call, it's a term they use, squaring the circle, and you divide that up into 4 equal parts inside of cubes, you'll find those cubes are all made of 606-foot lines per cube side. The angle of the Great Pyramid of Egypt runs 51.8 degrees up the slope from the base to the angle. That measurement is there, and when you come off of the baseline at Newark and you run true north and then measure that angle back to the baseline, what do we find? 51.8 degrees. So did they have the same math as the ancient Egyptians? Well, I gotta say, yeah, it sure looks like it.
It's as inspiring, I think, in its way as the NASA program to send a man to the moon.
Most of the Mediterranean societies, civilizations, ran their calendar on the lunar cycle, or 13-month calendar. And that can be fully demonstrated with the Hopewell people as well. Again, another nice parallel to the Mediterranean contact.
We own the Newark Holy Stones, and these stones were found in a Hopewell mound in the 1860s, and the presumption from finding them was that perhaps the American Indians had some kind of contact with the Hebrews, or possibly they were the Hebrews. That's another idea. So we have the museum has been interested in origins.
They took it to some scholars, identified that it was probably some type of Hebrew. They took it to some rabbis living in the area, and upon looking at it, they said yes, they could read it. And it was a complete rendition of the 10 Commandments. They called it block Hebrew because they had never seen anything written like this, but they called it block Hebrew.
Oh, hi. I was just asked a really good question, and that is, what are my concepts of God? And I gotta say, I was agnostic up until my awakening. But where I really found my belief in a creator was when I started to learn about sacred geometry. I started to learn that everything from the atom to galaxies are adhering to very specific geometry. The golden mean, Fibonacci sequences, and it's just not on Earth, it's anywhere. It seems like the whole creation is adhering to this very specific geometry, and that's why it's called sacred. And to me, it's like finding the fingerprint of God, because it absolutely can't be coincidental. And so then I started to have my own belief in a creator. But I'll say I don't try to put labels around what the creator is. I think at this point in my evolution, if I did try to come to a conclusion, I would probably be wrong. I've heard it said it's kind of like we're a fly in a 747, and as much as that fly tries to figure out what it's a part of, even if it does come up with a conclusion, more than likely it's going to be wrong. So I think at this point in my evolution, saying that I know what God or the creator is truly just putting chains around the possibilities of what the creator is. The second part of that question was, what do I think of Jesus? And I think Jesus is exactly who he said he was. I think some big parts of his message have been they seem to go right past people's heads, and that's when he said, these things I do, one day you will do, and even greater. He didn't put himself on a pedestal and say, I'm the only way and here I am. He said, you will do these miracles as well. And I think, when you look at, some people know that Jesus came from a specific bloodline, King of David, and so there's others of that bloodline as well, and we can just leave it at that. But I think he's a profound spiritual teacher, and there's been many enlightened beings who have come here to help us remember that, thoughts create reality, and to be mindful. Think about what you're thinking about. I want to touch on the Christ. And first of all, I guess I'd like to point out the Christ has nothing to do with an individual. The Christ is, well, first of all, it means the anointed or the chosen one. Chosen for what? I think it's spiritual knowledge. It's, knowledge of how light and sound create physical reality and how your own consciousness is behind the wheel, sitting in the driver's seat. And I've heard it said, and I like this, that, pretty much you get what you expect. And there is no other main rule. Fear or love. Wherever you put your energy, it'll be reflected back to you by a loving universe. And so if you got a lot of fear and doubt in your belief system, and then, let's just say, I don't know, you're prejudiced or something, then you go out and you find yourself in a situation where it seems that your belief is confirmed. Well, it's not that you're right. Your own beliefs are just being reflected back to you by a loving universe, and you could have easily just as chosen the opposite and then experienced that. So I think that's the whole thing about becoming conscious of what your belief systems are. And really, this gets into the concept of free will as well, because a lot of people think free will is a great thing, and it is, but truly, once you understand thoughts create reality, it takes away free will, because there's only one thought form that has the most love-filled outcome for everyone involved, and any other choice is truly a trip back into the Maya or the illusion. So it really makes you focus what you're thinking about, and but then I think you got to train yourself once that first thought form comes up, which I found out it's usually from the mass consciousness. Not usually, it is. All of our own first internal dialogue in our voice, in our mind, comes from the mass consciousness, and we're all connected to the mass consciousness. So I guess the point is, if your first thought forms that enter your head in your own internal dialogue are from the mass consciousness, well, the mass consciousness is still filled with a lot of fear-based thought forms. That's why that first thought may be, oh, I'm getting screwed again. Oh, this is happening again. You know, why does this keep happening? Well, it's because you got to look for something different. You know, Bruce Lee, when he'd have a feeling of fear or doubt, he would write it out on paper and burn it and give it back to the universe. Say, thank you for showing me what I got a fear stamp on. Now what else is available? Once you say, now what else is available, you've broken that tie to the mass consciousness, which, again, it's not like the mass consciousness. Some things, your first internal dialogue may be great and love-filled, but just be aware if it's fear or any of those frequencies, train yourself to say thank you, but what else is available? And focus your attention on the highest love-filled outcome for everything and all involved. And do it with conviction, and don't ever doubt it afterwards, and see what manifests in your life. I think you'll be shocked.
Mike's footage is really impressive simply because of the size of Lake Erie and the fact that it's a no-fly zone. There's nothing around for something like 60 miles. And it really makes these lights that Michael Leahill is videotaping very remarkable.
But are these objects new, or have they been seen before? March 4th, 1988. According to the Cleveland Plain dealer, Sheila Baker sees several small triangular objects shooting out of a huge metallic gray football-shaped object descending over Lake Erie. The U.S. Coast Guard even witnesses this event and makes a written report. Quote, "The smaller objects began hovering in the area where the large object landed. They appeared to be scouting the area." They were never able to fully resolve this event. The description of these objects approaching the lake is eerily similar to Michael's footage from August 18th, 2006. But Michael's encounters go further back than the team realized.
What the hell? Whoa! There's a smaller one flying into it or something.
Dude, it's angels circling the earth, man.
What's this coming up to it, man? No way. I got this on tape, man.
Oh, this is a trick.
Dude, there's one stopping right into it. It's hovering.
I know, I see.
Dude, this ain't even right. Oh my god.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
Dude, I got it on tape. What the hell? That's the craziest thing ever.
I'm telling you, it's the mothership being guided in this way.
Whoa.
So bright, it's reflecting on the lake.
Dude, it's beautiful.
You see that? It's reflecting.
Oh, I got it. I'm filming it, dude.
I'm just saying it for documentation, man.
Yeah, it's dude.
It's so bright, it's causing like the sunset with the sun and the rain.
Yeah.
That's important. There was like a refueling or something.
Yeah, I don't know what just happened.
Dude, we just saw something amazing.
This one's coming closer over here, man.
Yeah, here comes another one. See that other one coming out from further west?
Yeah, man.
I got it. Look at dude. Oh, wow. What's going on? Those like afterburners or some experimental jet? I don't know, man. There is NASA out in the area as well. I don't know what it is, really. Trust me, I've seen the NASA Lewis Research Center out there. But look how fast it's going. You see that? Yeah, it took off in a jiffy. Dude. Wow, dude, look at that. Yeah, that's freaking crazy bright. You ever seen anything like that? Oh, going away. Oh, look at right under it, dude. It's huge. Look right there in front of us. Yeah. Huh. Wow. Wow, I've never seen anything like this either. Wow, dude, look at that. Yeah, that's freaking crazy bright. You ever seen anything like that? Oh, going away. Ah, yeah. Wow. Wow. Did it just kind of like dim out? Looks like it. Yeah, what the fuck? Perspective here. Wow. That is unbelievably bright out here. Holy shit. How beautiful is that? I'm gonna back out so you can see what's going on. One of them disappeared. Shouldn't have moved. One of them disappeared. Right. I can't believe I can't get this set. There it is. That is so bright. Dude, you see that? Wow. That's going to be some of the best footage ever. Want to see? Oh, it's fading away.
I see it.
Yeah, wow. That's pretty bizarre. Holy shit. Look at that. What the hell? Weird. Those are buildings. I don't know how anyone can't be seeing that. You know, those lights showed up over Phoenix, and here's lights over Cleveland. It's going down behind that building.
And of all the dead giveaways, the disappear and reappearing of stars just don't happen.
Yeah, well, there's another one forming right next to it. Wow. I think I got that one just showing up out of nowhere. That's got to look crazy in there. I mean, it's color and stuff when you see it in, just in the view. Yeah, it'll be really nice color. Wow.
I can't believe it's getting right next to each other.
There's another one. There's a third one.
It's a red one too.
Yeah, man. Holy shit. Wow.
Too bad my camera don't zoom that far.
Wow, man. Holy shit.
Wait. Oh, do we have three?
There's three. Yeah.
Oh, triangle formation.
Yeah.
Hi, how you doing? Look at that.
Wow, man. Holy shit. Unbelievable. Thank you. That is mind-blowing, man. What's your name?
Sean.
Sean's here to witness this with us.
What's you guys' name?
My name is Michael, and this is Justin. There's one down at the bottom of the lake now.
Yeah.
Holy shit, check this out.
That is a lot. I've never caught four.
Oh my God. But I gotta get back to this.
Where's he going? The one that was at the bottom, he left.
Did he?
Yeah.
Good, because I left that screen anyhow. I want to get these guys.
He's going to the right again now. I mean to the left. He's going back to the left.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Nah, barely.
I still see him. And I just
put
my camera up. I just put it up. His light is huge.
Yeah.
Just took the batteries out, everything.
Whoa! Another one just turned on, man. Wow. I caught it on film too.
I think you're like, yeah, we about to give him a show before we go.
Yeah, this is it. Oh.
En el estado de Ohio, en el Midwest de los Estados Unidos, se encuentra el lago Erie, uno de los grandes lagos. Ahí, recientemente, en los últimos meses, se han venido grabando imágenes notables, extraordinarias, de lo que parecen ser objetos inteligentes. En el mes de mayo pasado, se grabó nuevamente un video extraordinario que le vamos a presentar aquí. Evidentemente que estos objetos no pueden ser aviones, y entonces, ¿qué son? La historia con Carlos Clemente.
La oleada ovni que se ha estado generando en el lago Erie en los Estados Unidos desde el año 2001 ha llamado la atención. Ha recibido una amplia cobertura por parte de los medios de comunicación que después de cada avistamiento importante presentan las imágenes a la opinión pública.
Have you seen the mysterious lights over Lake Erie? Many people suspect they could be signals from space. Jen Pachano explains those sightings and one theory about their origin.
What do you see when you watch this home video?
What's this coming up to it, man? No way. I got this on tape, man.
It was taken on a Lake Erie spring night.
I go outside and I look up in the sky and I see them up there. Every so often you see strange lights blinking on and off.
It's not hard to find people who believe the lakeshore is a hotbed for extraterrestrial activity. Last year, in fact, Fox 8 revealed these images of similar lights over the lake.
Now, it goes without saying, but of course we'll say it anyway. NASA, the military, no one will comment on any of this. But we do know planes are always landing and taking off at Hopkins and, of course, on the other side of the lake in Canada. Michael Lee Hill says none of that matters. We'll know more soon enough when they decide to reveal themselves. Mark Zinni.
Fox live in the Newsplex with the story, new at 11.
Yes, Denise, you might remember the last time we tried to broadcast some of Michael Lee Hill's UFO video, our computer system crashed. Coincidence? Tonight, barring any alien interruptions, here's Hill's latest home video that may make a believer out of you. What in the world is this, or should we say out of this world? A pulsating orb of light hovering over Lake Erie near the East Lake shore. Michael Lee Hill behind the camera. The UFO researcher says without a doubt what you're seeing are
Extraterrestrials?
no doubt about
No doubt about it.
One showing up next.
The video, shot last fall, just put on YouTube and already's gotten more than 660,000 hits.
Debido a la extensa difusión de noticias acerca de las observaciones que son constantes en el área del lago, grupos de personas están acampando a las orillas para poder ser testigos de la aparición de estos objetos misteriosos. Los expertos han analizado las evidencias y consultaron con personal de la torre de control del aeropuerto, pero hasta el momento no ha habido ninguna respuesta acerca de lo que ha estado ocurriendo. Incluso hay quienes piensan que existe una base extraterrestre en el lago, y otros solo se limitan a decir que es un punto caliente para ver ovnis. La historia del lago tiene al menos 150 años de sucesos extraños. Su nombre es de una tribu norteamericana llamados los Erieloxnan, o personas con cola larga. Las anécdotas datan de la guerra civil entre los años 1861 y 1865, en donde la gente advertía a los forasteros acerca de las luces del lago. Desde el año 2004, un grupo de investigación de la ciudad de Cleveland ha documentado por lo menos 40 avistamientos de importancia desde el noroeste de Ohio y el área de playas del lago Erie. En el 2010 la cantidad de reportes se incrementa de manera notable. El reportero David Schuster de la NBC presentó un reporte donde la NASA y la milicia argumentaron no saber el origen de estas misteriosas luces.
NASA has a lab in Cleveland called the Glenn Research Center. They test rockets and various aircraft, but say they haven't done any testing this week. A Pentagon official told me the U.S. military has not been testing anything recently in that area. And the FAA acknowledges the light pattern seems different from commercial flight paths in the area.
Las evidencias son claras y al parecer algo está ocurriendo, ya que desde hace tiempo en este sitio de los Estados Unidos se han estado presentando estos misteriosos objetos. Le acabamos de mostrar las evidencias del lago Erie en los Estados Unidos, un lugar en donde los ovnis se han estado viendo desde el 2010 y ahora, en el 2011, hay nuevas evidencias. Nosotros continuaremos a la expectativa y le mostraremos aquí más de estas evidencias.
Now we're getting into frequency, which I'm sure that these various non-human intelligences are extraordinarily familiar with, and how that can play an integral role in shifting the paradigm as well. Yes?
Oh, absolutely, because we always fall back into the illusion of the physical world, that things are physical and they're solid and whatever. And one of the things you learn when you start getting into the paranormal or the study of ufology is that there is no real time and space. There is no physical world, and it's all vibration. Because people will say, well, you know, I don't believe that you can, you know, move from here to there through time and space. And you start looking at it, and when you break the physical world down, basically you just have these sort of fields, not really even particles when you break it right down, and it's all got to do with vibration. So, and aliens even given this message, it's all vibration. So whether it's the emotion of the song, that's why I think it's so involved. It's not as simple. It's not going to be a simple sort of thing. We sort of take music as just, you know, something that entertains us. But when you start looking at, there was even this, and I see I'm not a musician, so there's this talk about the different moving music from
440 hertz to 432. Yeah. I'm very familiar with it.
and if you ever interview Michael Lee Hill, who he's really big into this and into the frequency thing, and he claims to be the biological son of Eric Clapton, and he's very much an experiencer and has had a lot of major sightings. Believes he's involved with the Anunnaki through, you know, this reincarnation type thing with the Anunnaki. Very, very bizarre sort of ancient alien story. But he talks about this all the time, and there's a number of people, but of course I don't really, I sort of follow it, but I don't follow it because it's never been my field, this music thing. But musicians will talk about this an awful lot, the importance of moving this music and changing it, and how it affects us, that even the powers that be may be trying to manipulate us with changing the frequency of music. And Eric, and I think Colin Andrews talked to me about this thing, that unless the emotion in a song is very important, that if you can create the right emotion, it triggers the message.
En Ohio, en el Midwest de los Estados Unidos, se encuentra el lago Erie, uno de los grandes lagos. Ahí recientemente, en los últimos meses, se han venido grabando imágenes notables, extraordinarias, de lo que parecen ser objetos inteligentes. En el mes de mayo pasado se grabó nuevamente un video extraordinario que le vamos a presentar aquí. Evidentemente que estos objetos no pueden ser aviones, y entonces, ¿qué son? La historia con Carlos Clemente.
La oleada ovni que se ha estado generando en el lago Erie en los Estados Unidos desde el año 2001 ha llamado la atención. Ha recibido una amplia cobertura por parte de los medios de comunicación, que después de cada avistamiento importante presentan las imágenes a la opinión pública.
Have you seen the mysterious lights over Lake Erie? Many people suspect they could be signals from space. Jen Pichano explains those sightings and one theory about their origin.
What do you see when you watch this home video?
What's this coming up to it, man? No way. I got this on tape, man.
It was taken on a Lake Erie spring night.
I go outside and I look up in the sky and I see them up there. Every so often you see strange lights blinking on and off.
It's not hard to find people who believe the lakeshore is a hotbed for extraterrestrial activity. Last year, in fact, Fox 8 revealed these images of similar lights over the lake.
Now, it goes without saying, but of course we'll say it anyway. NASA, the military, no one will comment on any of this. But we do know planes are always landing and taking off at Hopkins and, of course, on the other side of the lake in Canada. Michael Lee Hill says none of that matters. We'll know more soon enough when they decide to reveal themselves. Mark Zinni.
Fox 8. Live in the Newsflex with the story, new at 11.
Yes, Denise, you might remember the last time we tried to broadcast some of Michael Lee Hill's UFO video, our computer system crashed. Coincidence? Tonight, barring any alien interruptions, here's Hill's latest home video that may make a believer out of you. What in the world is this, or should we say out of this world? A pulsating orb of light hovering over Lake Erie near the Eastlake shore. Michael Lee Hill behind the camera. The UFO researcher says without a doubt what you're seeing are
Extraterrestrials?
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. One showing up next to...
The video, shot last fall, just put on YouTube and already's gotten more than 660,000 hits.
Debido a la extensa difusión de noticias acerca de las observaciones que son constantes en el área del lago, grupos de personas están acampando a las orillas para poder ser testigos de la aparición de estos objetos misteriosos. Los expertos han analizado las evidencias y consultaron con personal de la torre de control del aeropuerto, pero hasta el momento no ha habido ninguna respuesta acerca de lo que ha estado ocurriendo. Incluso hay quienes piensan que existe una base extraterrestre en el lago, y otros solo se limitan a decir que es un punto caliente para ver ovnis. La historia del lago tiene al menos 150 años de sucesos extraños. Su nombre es de una tribu norteamericana llamados los Erieloxnan o personas con cola larga. Las anécdotas datan de la guerra civil entre los años 1861 y 1865, en donde la gente advertía a los forasteros acerca de las luces del lago. Desde el año 2004, un grupo de investigación de la ciudad de Cleveland ha documentado por lo menos 40 avistamientos de importancia desde el noroeste de Ohio y el área de playas del lago Erie. En el 2010 la cantidad de reportes se incrementa de manera notable. El reportero David Schuster de la NBC presentó un reporte donde la NASA y la milicia argumentaron no saber el origen de estas misteriosas luces.
NASA has a lab in Cleveland called the Glenn Research Center. They test rockets and various aircraft, but say they haven't done any testing this week. A Pentagon official told me the U.S. military has not been testing anything recently in that area. And the FAA acknowledges the light pattern seems different from commercial flight paths in the area.
Las evidencias son claras y al parecer algo está ocurriendo, ya que desde hace tiempo en este sitio de los Estados Unidos se han estado presentando estos misteriosos objetos. Le acabamos de mostrar las evidencias del lago Erie en los Estados Unidos, un lugar en donde los ovnis se han estado viendo desde el 2010 y ahora, en el 2011, hay nuevas evidencias. Nosotros continuaremos a la expectativa y le mostraremos aquí más de estas evidencias.